Usopp is going to become a god. No, really. Hear me out. So, one of the key aspects of the entire Straw Hat's journey has that progressively each Straw Hat has gotten stronger. And the Straw Hat who is currently most overdue for a good upgrade on their ability is Usopp. Because technically, if you count what happened with Whole Cake Island and even during Wano, Nami got her upgrade in the form of Zeus. So the character who's next due for their big upgrade is Usopp, and I think the upgrade he could get could be world-breaking for One Piece. So, here it is. Usopp has a number of skills that we commonly rely on for him. He is incredibly inventive, he is incredibly, tactical, he's an expert marksman, and he's a great artist. Now, of all of those, I don't think you'd think that the artist one is the one that would be the most useful, but here's where we're going with this. There's currently one fruit that can take that artistic ability and turn him into one of the strongest characters in One Piece, and it's the Ink fruit. Now, we don't have a lot of time reference for the Ink fruit, yet weirdly, it is a fruit we know a lot more about than others. This is because it was actually part of a character who we got to know very well during Wano, which was Kurozomi Kanjuro. Now, one of the funny things about this fruit is that we didn't really know how powerful it was when we first saw it because he was deliberately making bad art. However, towards the end of Wano, we got to really see him bust out and see what he could do with it. And when you really think about it, the skills that this fruit gives complement Usopp perfectly. So, let's run down some of the basic things that this fruit would allow him to do and might actually make him one of the strongest members on the crew. First and foremost, it makes him an excellent hider. This fruit allows you to turn yourself into an ink picture and hide. That is like number one on his list half the time, is getting away from and or hiding from individuals. Plus, he's always been looked to for the crew for, infiltration right next to Sanji. I think that makes it a really useful ability for him in and of itself. But then you have to take that even farther, because what he started using post time skip were specialized different kinds of payloads. True, he did have different ones before, but let's be honest, pre-time skip, he mostly relied on explosive stars. Sometimes hot sauce, sometimes steel, but those were the primary, And because of that, he had a fairly limited arsenal. Since he has come back with the plants, we've seen much more variety of different attacks from him. The ink fruit we already know can work in combination with this because we saw it during Dressrosa. We saw Kanjuro basically make a specialized shot for him that recreated Usopp's face. So he could make any kind of ammunition that he wanted. And that is a big benefit to him alone, which far outpaces what Oda said he would give to him, which is the Pika Pika no Mi. And that is just, absolutely kind of a trash fruit anyway, but giving somebody extra pockets, just even if they're cartoon space logic, doesn't seem useful for Usopp. It goes even farther when you realize that essentially this fruit lets him overcome one of the interesting things that's about him. Now, it's long been known that Usopp suffers from lying, and then those lies will manifest and become true, which is terrifying considering some of the lies he's told. But because he can combine his art skill with his storytelling skill, it's interesting to think about the combinations he could pull off. We've seen, the original process of this fruit make everything from giant cats to a dragon to an actual flying heron to a duplicate of a person to even making multiple constructs at a time. And the only time it was ever said to be very exhausting for the user was when they were directly possessing one of their constructs. Because of that, I think there's a strong possibility that one of the biggest things Usopp could make with this would be his 8,000-man army. Usopp has long bragged that he would have an 8,000-man army, and while, yes, I know the Straw Hat Grand Fleet does kind of fulfill that, let's be honest, they're not featured all that much in the story. They will be in the final battle, but they're not going to be for now. And because of that, giving him the ability to just make an army whenever he wants is incredibly potent. Keep in mind, too, that, it doesn't have to be made with a brush. The brush was the primary weapon that we saw the original user using, but he could have Frankie make him stamps and just emit the ink and stamp things, which might be the more efficient way to make a bunch of constructs with this. But even taking that one step further, if he has the room, because we know room is one of the few constraints with this fruit, he could make giants, he could make animals, he could make another dragon, he could make nearly anything that he wanted. And that is incredibly potent. It's also worth noting that we know that these constructs are at least water resistant that isn't salt water. Because it seems to be they don't hold up very well in the ocean, but beyond that, they hold up great against rain. We've seen them, crossing sometimes streams and rivers. So that isn't really the hindrance that we originally thought that it would be. Another funny thing about this is that I did talk about, its ability to camouflage oneself. You can also enter a construct, controlling it from afar or merging with it to become somebody else. This could be great for Usopp, for infiltration, again, making yourself look like somebody else as long as he has a picture. But going even further, he could make a giant, not just have it ordered around, but instead assume control of it and become very powerful with it. Another logical extension of this could be that he could make direct individuals, not just like shape outlines. And with that, he could maybe make duplicates of the Straw Hat crew. And even if those duplicates were only a quarter as strong, can you imagine how strong a quarter strong Luffy is right now? I mean, if it's copied from the current Luffy right now, that's still able to trash most standard fodder in any army or marine crew or anybody. So that's going to be pretty potent. All of this stacks together to also accompany the fact that you can just emit the ink as a weapon itself. We saw that with Conjuro. And you can use your tool, if you have a brush, which we know Usopp is good with brushes, as a hardened weapon, actually. Altogether, this is actually a very utility-based fruit that gets more powerful the more creative the user. And there probably isn't a Straw Hat user that's more creative than Usopp. I would argue maybe Luffy and him are tied for creativity, because they have that same spark of inspiration. But, we're talking, it's really close right there. And if you gave Usopp this, he definitely becomes, as strong as any of the other Straw Hats. Maybe stronger than some of the others that we would now have to rank lower. That's pretty potent. It would be very cool to see. But what do you think? Do you think this would be a good fruit for him? Comment below to let me know what you thought.